Shalawam family, it's your man Elijah. Thank you for joining me in Unsectarian Wisdom, and I am a healthy, wise, strong, protected, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Family, thank you for tuning in again. Just a side note, I won't necessarily have any screenshots, nothing to show y'all this evening because once again I'm out of town visiting my mother right now. Um, So just a heads up. And I know I always say I'm gonna try to make the video short, but we'll see this time. I'm gonna try and make it short, but I'll be rambling on because information be going on. This particular message, family, really is more so for my Hebrew people slash Gentiles, the multitude, the other tribes. Um, it's also for my Israelite brothers and sisters. It's also for y'all, but more so for them. But for my Israelite brothers sisters, this is for y'all. Is almost like a teaching, because we are the priests that will present ourselves before the other nations. We are the examples they are to follow. So in that way, this video is for you. And remember, family, in my understanding from my studies of Hebrew, just because you're Israelite don't mean you're Hebrew. Remember, Hebrew is a spiritual man, a spiritual woman. Um, like Paul, our brother Paul said, that the Most High can turn these rocks into the children of Abraham, but show that you are the children of the Most High by the way you live, by the way you act, right? AKA Hebrew. Hebrew means one who has crossed over. And me as your brother, I believe in wholeheartedly in reincarnation. I believe that some of our ancestors in the past, or even some of you, have reincarnated in this earth, no longer as a Israelite or a so-called black person in today's modern world, but you've come back as a white person, Asian person, Hispanic, Latino, Arab, Hamite, and vice versa. Some of them who came before as the other nations have now reincarnated as us, because it's about the soul, right? So anyway, um, I want to start off, family, by reading, and in this. Okay, let me say this for my for my Hebrew brothers and sisters from the other nation. This message is about what you have to do to become part of the tribe, to be grafted in. And this is the best way to explain it that I can. And I'm gonna start off with reading from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 23, the laws of Moses, right? And I'm gonna start first at verse 6. No, I'm gonna start at verse 7. Chapter book of Deuteronomy, verse chapter 23, verse 7. That's where I'm at. Hold on. Can you see it? Hold on. Let me show you. It says Deuteronomy right there, right? Deuteronomy 23. So Deuteronomy chapter 23, starting at verse 7. You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, because you were an alien in his land. The children of the third generation born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. Now, to be fair, I'm going to go back to verse 3 now. An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever, because they did not meet you with bread and water on the road when you came out of Egypt, and because they hired against you Balaam the son of Beor from Pethor of Mesopotamia to curse you. Nevertheless, the Lord your God would not listen to Balaam, but the Lord your God turned the curse into a blessing for you, because the Lord your God loves you. You shall not seek their peace nor their prosperity all your days forever. Now I want to say something, family, about what I just read. Okay, let me start off like this. Let me go verse 3 again. What it said: an Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation, right? Well, let me show you something. Well, before I go somewhere else, remember, family, when Moses first took our ancestors to Mount Sinai, remember when they first got there, right? They already had gave his oath before he went up the first time. They gave their oath that they were going to follow the laws, follow the commandments. But after Moshe went into the mountain, right, and he was up there for, what was it, 30? It was like 30 to 40 days, right? What did they do? They made a golden calf. They started fornicating and partying and doing all types of crazy stuff, right, while he was up in the mountain. And then when Moses came down and saw what they was doing, what did he do? he broke the tablet. And he was like, look, y'all done already broke the laws. Y'all gave your word and you done broke the laws already. And he broke the tablet. So what did he have to do? He had to go back in the mountain and he had to get another tablet. And they had to retake the vow again, right? And then fast forward, what happened to our people after that, right? Guess what? The curse of Deuteronomy 28 came upon our people, because what do we do again? We transgress against the law. This is what Kanye be talking about when people talk about Kanye crazy, because so-called black people, it's our choice to be in slavery. And without knowing it, because we've forgotten who we were, because we forgot who our ancestors are, because we no longer live by the laws of the Most High Creator, we have inadvertently chosen to be in slavery because of our sins, because of our ignorance. That's just the part that Kanye didn't explain. Now, and remember, Kanye all into the Israelite thing now, right? So those who are read up, not many of us, but there was a big chunk of us who understood what Kanye is talking about. Why? Because we read up of the word. We know what he was talking about. So once again, remember, because our people sinned, they were taken into captivity into Babylon, right? We were also taken over by the Greeks. Who else? The Romans came in. But remember, that's what the Messiah is for. That's what our King, Yahushua Mashiach of Nazareth, is for. We had a new covenant under him. And under Yahushua, the covenant is open now to even the Gentiles by way of Peter, Apostle Peter, right? He was sent to minister to the Gentiles, right? Even Paul did for a little bit. So therefore, they're open now to be delivered by the word. The good news is for them too. The good news was first for our people, because it was for us. Remember, like I remember in past videos, family, I've given the example that as the priest from our nation, right? We're like bus drivers, and all the other tribes or the people are passengers, and we lead by example to lead them to the kingdom. No, it's not for them to take on all our laws, right? It's not for them to live as Israelites, because they're not. But it's only for them to live by the 10 Commandments, which is a universal law. But they don't have to circumcise their children. They don't have to follow our holy days. Now, they're not supposed to be following any other days that worship any other foreign gods or pagan gods, nothing like that. But they are supposed to adhere to the 10 Commandments, you know. But for those who do, but there are those, the multitude, who do desire to become a part of our nation, and they have that right now. And just like I read for you a second ago in Deuteronomy 23 verse 3, right? What did it say? Not a Moabite, right? Okay, well, let me give you another one. Remember, we broke the law again, and that's why Yahushua had to come under a new covenant. And yes, he said he did not do away with the laws. He didn't, but there were a few changes. Now follow me, and I'm not lying, because I want to go to first, right? Hold on. I'm reading from the book of Ruth, chapter 2. And all I'm going to read is chapter 2, verse 2. One day Ruth, the Moabite, said to Naomi, I'm going to the fields. Maybe someone will be kind enough to let me gather the grain he leaves behind. Naomi said, go, my daughter. Remember, Naomi was what? A Israelite by blood, right? And I would say she was a Hebrew too. So remember, Ruth was what? She was a Moabite. But yet, we just read in Deuteronomy, right? It said, an Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord. And while we on that, remember, we weren't supposed to marry Canaanites, right? But yet, remember Rahab, when Joshua and them walked around the walls of Jericho, but yet Rahab was accepted, right? And who are Ruth and what bloodline? Who is a part of the bloodline of Ruth and Rahab? Yahushua. Are they not? They're part of the very bloodline that our king was in. And not to mention, let's not forget about Solomon, who had many of foreign wives from every freaking different nation around. He had hundreds, he had thousands. No, I think how many did? I forget. Solomon had maybe about 1,000 wives, maybe less. David had 600-700. They was marrying women from every nation, but yet they were still favored by the Most High, right? And they some of the highest figures. So it's not to say that you can't. All right. But I'm gonna tell y'all how it's supposed to be done. This is what we're gonna talk about. Once again, to my Hebrew brothers and sisters, or Gentile brothers and sisters, so-called white, Hispanic, Asian, Arab, Latino, Hamites, you know what I'm saying? This is how you become, right? Once again, I'm gonna read it again. I'm gonna read Deuteronomy chapter 23, starting from verse 7. You shall not abhor an Edomite, for he is your brother. You shall not abhor an Egyptian, because you are an alien in his land. The children of the third generation born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. So let me go. So first off, Edomite. Who y'all calling Edomites all the time? So-called white people, right? And then the Egyptians. Remember, Egyptian means slavery, captivity. We in Egypt right now again, right? So-called Americas. Even though this is the land of our ancestors, right now it's under the guise of Babylon, a foreign land. So once again, don't abhor the Egyptians, aka Americans, so-called Americans, what you want to call them, right? So I just want to throw that out there, right? Okay. So to my Gentile brothers and sisters, like I said, the children of the third generation born to them may enter the assembly of the Lord. So in other words, let me read something for y'all too. What is a generation, right? This is on Google. Look up so we understand a generation, right? So a generation refers to all of the people born and living at about the same time regarded collectively. It can also be described as the average period generally considered to be about 20 to 30 years during which children are born and grow up, become adults, and begin to have children. So I say about third generation, I say it's either the third generation would either be, let's say it was me, and then it would be my children's children, or it would be me or it would be me, my and my children's children's children. So I say the third generation is either my children's children or my children's children's children, right? So I say about that's about the generation where they will now be considered Israelites by blood. They have now been grafted in because remember, Israelites are self family, right? Remember, the word says that we are the adopted, what? The adoptive children of the Most High Creator. So we can be adopted. Why can't they be adopted in? Right? And I'm gonna tell y'all how this works. So let me explain this. So let's kind of take it from an Old Testament, right? So let's say you have some Egyptians or Hamites, right? Or whoever else was part of, because remember Egypt back in the day was like New York. It wasn't just the multitude wasn't just Egyptians family. It was people from many different tribes because different people lived in Egypt back then. Because Egypt was like the crossroads of civilization. It was like the middle of civilization back then, right? It was like New York, like modern day New York, Toronto, UK, London, right? Paris, Tokyo, Cape Town, South Africa. Think about all the major hubs, right? That's what it was. It was a multitude of different tribes, different nations. So basically, this is how it works, family. So let's say you have an Egyptian man and woman who, during the time of Moses, decided they wanted to leave with the tribes when they left Egypt because they believe in the Most High now, and they truly want to be a part of the tribes. So this is how it works. Those two people obviously would let the priest know, let the people know, look, we want to be a part of you. We want to be grafted in. So this is how it works. These people now start to live as if they were Israelites from the day they were born, or I guess people will call them proselytes or converts, right? They don't eat pork no more. They don't eat shellfish, right? They start celebrating the Passover, new moon holidays, Sukkoth, the day of repentance, right? They start worshiping all the days. They start living like a Israelite. Now, the man is not supposed to circumcise himself because, he wasn't circumcised, but yet he is supposed to, but now he is still supposed to live as a Israelite. Or actually, let me look that up. Actually, I think it did say that If a stranger in the land, yeah, okay, actually, no, I take that back. I think if you do want to become a Israelite, even as a proselyte, um to become engrafted in, I have to double check this, family. I could be wrong. Or put it in the comment section. I think it's like iffy. I know because if I look back in the Old Testament, yes, I think it did say if there's a stranger. I think it said it the slaves. I don't know. Well, I don't know. Well, I know it said the strangers weren't allowed to partake of Passover, but I think it said that if the slaves. Okay, I know this is confusing. And I should have had the scriptures, but I remember it said that if a Israelite has slaves and their slaves want to partake of the Passover, they need to be circumcised. Now, I don't know if if a multitude counts as that, because the multitude isn't slaves. They're willingly, they're not serving anybody. They want to be a part of the nation. So this is something to pray on. I'll look more into it. But for this teaching, I'm gonna go by Paul and Peter and how they were saying the Most High does not require Gentiles to circumcise themselves because their heart is circumcised, but because they are converts, because they want to be grafted in, they're children though. So once again, let's say take two Egyptians, right? And they want to be grafted in. They want to become, Israelites by blood. When they have a child, right, who is, I guess by definition, technically a Hamite, because they come from the line of Ham and they were Egyptians, but their child now is being raised, who their child is now is born in the camp, right? It was a boy. He must be circumcised. That let's say that so that was so their first child son needs to be circumcised, right? And his son needs to be circumcised, and then his son needs to be circumcised, right? So now follow me. So there's a reason why it's like this, because remember the first generation, right, who grew up in Egypt, although they're living as Israelites now, they still remember Egypt. So by all means, they still have the spirit of Egypt in them to a certain extent, just like Israelites do. Israelites who grown up here in Babylon or grew up in Egypt back in the day. That's why remember when the Israelites were in the wilderness and they about to kill Moses, because like, man, we would have rather stayed in Egypt and died, than come out here and die with you with no food and no water. At least we had meat, to eat and good food and everything in Egypt, right? And you know why they said that? Because they miss Egypt. Because they all they knew was Egypt. They didn't know nothing about the wilderness. They didn't know nothing about living as Israelite, because they technically weren't a nation of Israelites yet, because they didn't have the laws yet. They hadn't been living like that. So by all means, they were still Egyptians. So that's why the first generation is not allowed to necessarily truly be Israelites, because you still have, how people talk about generational curses? You still have, that's what this refers to, Egypt in this point. You still have Egypt in your blood. So now when they have children, now that child who's born in the wilderness, all he knows is being a Israelite, because his parents have converted. So since the day he can remember, he's been celebrating Passover. He's been circumcised. He's been celebrating the new moon celebrations. You know what I'm saying? So all he knows is being a Israelite. But because his parents used to live in Egypt, let's be honest, there are probably times where they talk about Egypt. They probably still have some habits from Egypt. Not saying that they're sinning, not habits where they're breaking the laws that they've now vowed to take to become Israelites, but they might have certain conversations. They might say things about Egypt. They might say, one of them might say, man, I miss some bacon, even I don't eat it no more. Because even I, look, don't be wrong, family, look, I don't eat pork no more, but I miss some McDonald's sausage egg McMuffin, or some pork chorizo. Look, don't be wrong, or some good crispy bacon. Look, look, I know who I am now. I know how I live, but before I lived as a Gentile, before I knew better, before I read the word, and I love me some double cheese, bacon burgers, right? So what I'm saying is, because that parent, because the first generation, whether unknowingly or by ignorance, still kind of puts that curse or that generational curse upon their children by bringing up the past or by certain ways they carry themselves. But nonetheless, the son who was born in the wilderness is more Israelite than them because all he knows. Now comes the third generation, that son's son, right? Once again, has a boy, he gonna circumcise that son. But now that third generation, right? Now remember, although there, and let's say the grandparents are still alive, although he knows his family, his grandparents came from Egypt or Babylon, right? And they didn't always live as Israelites. All he really knows is that they all been Israelites because his daddy and mama were born as Israelites or in a Israelite camp, Israelite nation, and his grandparents, regardless of them being from the old country, they're now voluntarily living as Israelites. So now that generational curse of Egypt is being broken off of them because remember, they're growing up. Remember, that child is being raised by the first generation's children. And in that second generation, remember, they didn't actually grow up in Egypt. They only know what their parents talked about it. So because they didn't grow up in Egypt, they don't have the habits of Egypt like their parents did. And they're not going to talk about Egypt as much as their parents did, if at all ever, because they weren't never born there. They don't know nothing about Egypt. They were born in the wilderness within the camps. I hope y'all following me, family. So, you know how family, once again, this even goes with animal kingdom. You know how they say in the animal kingdom, some animals have they have that DNA to where like certain animals are born already knowing how to hunt or knowing what to do because it's in their DNA. Same, it's okay. That's what I'm talking about. So by that third generation, their DNA. So basically, the blood in the second generation is being coded. Family, imagine your avatar is like your body. Your avatar is a organic robot, and just like computer programs in today's world, in the modern world, you know how you have to code certain programs to do certain things. It's the same thing with your avatar. So the second generation, the third generation is coding the second generation by living righteously by the word, by living by the laws, right? They're training their DNA to become second nature, to be living as Israelites. So by the time the third generation comes out, they're Israelites, right? So whether so you, I hope y'all following me. This is why they had to do. This is why in the beginning, remember in the beginning of the Bible was so harsh when they said, "Don't do anything on the Sabbath. If you do, you'll be caught in stone." It was like that, family, because you couldn't break the rules at first because you're coding the body, you're coding your body. So they had to be strict. But as we've gone on through time, especially in Yahushua, that's why Yahushua said, "He who is without sin cast the first stone." Because by then, family, it was no longer permitted to stone somebody. During the first generation, it was permitted because they were coating the blood. They had to break the generational curse of Egypt. So it had to be serious punishment. That's just how things are when you're starting a new civilization. Because remember, if you're starting a new civilization, you don't want to start it on the norms of the old world. But because we come from the old world, unfortunately, those norms are going to follow us because those norms have become habit. Egypt was a habit in those people. So that habit, that generational curse had to be broken. And that's why the third generation, why they cannot officially be drafted into the third generation, because you have to code the blood. And you code the blood through marking your children. Remember, family, in Exodus 13, it talks about, remember, there's two different marks. There's the mark of the beast system and the mark of the Most High. And what is the mark of the Most High? Following the ways of the Most High. And in this case, Exodus chapter 13, 12 and 13 speaks about marking our people through the Passover. And how is it explained? It says, on this day, on Passover, your children will celebrate for generations to come. And on this day, your children will ask, why do we celebrate this day? And the parents are to tell your children, we celebrate this day to remind you of the Most High who freed us from Egypt. It's to remind them, to keep it in their mind. And people do what's in their mind. Remember, just like the Most High told Cain, he told cast out imagination. Why did he tell Cain to cast out his imagination and the evil thoughts he had? Because what you think on is what you do. What you think is how you act, right? So this is why the first and second generation are coding the blood for the third generation, right? To get them ready to be to become grafted in. And that's why the third, or like I said, it's either now, either in this case, like I said, the third generation, I had to look it up. It's either, like I said, let's say I was a Egyptian. So third generation is either my son's children or my son's son's children. So it's one of those. Whoever knows how to break that down properly, family, put in the comment section. Because I'm not sure. It's either, like I said, the third generation is either the father's son's son or the father's son's son's son. So correct me on that. But anyway, but this is what y'all got to know, to my Gentile brothers and sisters. This is how you become truly grafted in by blood. And then after that third generation, now your children can, well, I'm not sure who they really marrying. I'm not sure who, because let's say they had a son, right? Let's say the first generation had a son. I'm not sure if he's allowed to marry a Israelite. I'm not sure if that son is allowed to marry a Israelite woman, or if because he is a part of the second generation. Because put it like this, because in my scenario, we just assuming that their son married, because remember there's a multitude. So I'm assuming people from the multitude married who decided they wanted to become Israelites, right? Or proselytes, to convert to be Israelites in the third generation. I'm assuming they married each other. Like if it was two different families who went into the wilderness as a multitude at the same time, their children probably married each other until they got to the third generation. And now when they're at the third generation, now they're allowed to marry men and women within the actual bloodline of Israel. So now the blood can start being mixed and diluted. And I think by the third generation too, the blood is well, it's either third or seventh generation. I forget what it's saying. By which generation, it says in the Bible, I forget by which generation is the blood now considered pure again if people keep marrying within the nation. So but I'm pretty sure, look, I'm pretty sure it happened that way, but I'm also pretty sure that, let's be honest, just like, because remember, um I forget his name, was it Jesse? Whoever married Rahab. So if I could be wrong. Anyway, whoever the Israelites name who married Rahab, shoot, if he can marry Rahab, and especially knowing my people, the Israelite people, and knowing how they did it, I'm pretty sure. And then on top of that, remember, some of the Israelites too were marrying Ethiopian women too, and Egyptian women before they even went into the wilderness. So I'm pretty sure they didn't leave their wives and they went into the wilderness with them. So I'm pretty sure the Israelites were marrying the people who cleaned onto them too. Let's be honest. I know my people. So at the end of the day, family, like I said, when it comes to today's issues, I want to say this again. When it comes to our people, the issue isn't, the thing isn't that you can't marry people from another tribe. It's the type of people you marry. If you call yourself an Israelite man or woman, and then you call yourself going and marrying, let's say you're a so-called black Hebrew Israelite, right? Male or female, and you call yourself marrying a so-called white woman or white man or Hispanic, Asian, Arab, whatever, right? Your mistake is marrying one who, first off, is not submitted unto the laws of Moshe, who is not submitted unto Yahushua HaMashiach as the king of Israel. That's the first mistake. The second mistake, is marrying that person. Not only are they not submitted to it, but they live in as Gentiles. They either live in under the Quran, or they live in as a Christian, or they live in simply as a Buddhist, or they live in as an atheist, or they're living, or they just a straight up cookie cutter American patriot. They don't really, they one of those, you know, lukewarm Christians. Like, they only Christian because that's the way they're born. They're only Catholic because that's just the family they're born in. But they don't never go to church. They don't never read the Bible. They don't follow it. They just a Gentile. They just going through the motions of life, right? So when you marry someone like that who has no true reverence or respect for the Most High, remember, it's you follow the Most High in spirit and in truth. This is how they're supposed to carry themselves, right? And I'm not even talking in a new age. Look, a new age Christian is not good enough either to marry. Because look, And they have to also recognize that you are a descendant of Israel. They have to recognize that you're an Israelite. And they have to be willing to raise their children as Israelites. These are the people you don't marry, family. You don't marry old cookie cutter Becky or Karen down the street, my brothers. You don't marry Chad or Miguel or Jackie Chan from down the street, my brothers. I mean my sisters. You don't marry Gentiles who don't respect our heritage, who don't respect the laws of Moshe, who don't respect Yahushua, who don't respect the Most High. You don't marry people who are going. You don't marry women who are going to argue when you tell them your sons need to be circumcised. You don't marry people who are going to argue when you say you want your daughter to marry an Israelite man because she's an Israelite woman. You don't marry people who worship Christmas and other days from other religions instead of doing Passover or the Sabbaths, right? Or the other holy days that we have, these are the people you don't marry, family. If they don't respect our ways, you're wrong. Now, if you find a Gentile who converts to these ways, who truly wants to live like this, like let's say a brother, you see a so-called white Hispanic Asian and she got a head cover. Look, you don't have to wear the head cover. That's the sister's choice. But let's just say that's what she doing. And she got her Torah with her. She in the Torah all day, every day. She do the Sabbaths. She doing the Passover. Matter of fact, she know the word better than a lot of so-called black people who live as Gentiles today. Or vice versa. And then once again, you always fast and you pray and you ask the Most High permission too. First off, like the word says with a man who finds a wife, find don't mean look. That means you come upon her. As a man, as you Israelite man, while you on your purpose, serving the Most High, seeking what your purpose is, the Most High is supposed to put your wife before you. You ain't supposed to go out here looking. Because when you go out here looking yourself, that's a lot of time when you get women you ain't supposed to be marrying in the first place. You supposed to follow the Most High, being your purpose, and the Most High will put your wife in front of you. And sometimes that woman could be of another nation, but that woman will be like a Ruth. That woman will be like a Rahab, right? That woman will have a love and a true respect for the Most High in the Israelite nation, vice versa, a man for my Israelite sisters. So these things are permitted. It's just about who you get with. You ain't supposed to get with no just regular or Gentile and hope for the best. But even the word speaks on that too. I mean, the word does speak on that where it says that the righteous where it says a righteous partner will make the unrighteous partner righteous. But I don't suggest doing that because that's a headache you don't want, and that's causing more issues. But so I'm giving you the right way. I'm giving you the way that Gentiles are grafted in. And on this subject, family, and because I know we're visual people now, and a lot of us don't like reading, right? So I want to give y'all an example. So this is where I want y'all to go look for this movie. It's on YouTube, and I'm gonna put it in the comment section. And it's free to watch. My bad, family. Look for this movie, family. It's called Dreamkeeper. And you don't have to watch the whole movie. If you don't want to watch the whole movie, family, I'm going to suggest y'all skip to 47 minutes in. And the story is about a white boy who was kidnapped, or so-called white boy, a redheaded white boy, ginger boy, who was kidnapped when he was young and adopted by a Native American or Indian man, right? And taken into the tribe. And that's all he knew. He grew up as an Indian. And it basically shows how, even though he was mistreated in the tribe and stuff at times because they're like, you're not part of us, he's like, I am you. This is the only life I know. This is the best example I can give you, family, or to my Gentile brothers and sisters, or my Hebrew brothers and sisters, of and to my Israelite brothers and sisters. This is the best example I can give you of how this situation would look and how it would work. You know how I'll put it like this. To my Gentile brothers and sisters, you may not be aware of this, but for my so-called black brothers and sisters, growing up, we've heard the term, being black in this world, you got to work twice as hard or 10 times as hard to be accepted. Because the fact that you even look like us, especially for my darker brothers and sisters, it's like the world's already against you, like they want you to fail. So you got to be 10 times better than everybody to be accepted, right? Unfortunately, for my Gentile brothers and sisters, because of all the pain and everything that's happening, I'm going to be honest with you. That's what is going to be expected of you. Like, you should know the word like the back of your hand. You should know the word better than, unfortunately, I hate to say this, than the majority of my people, of my blood related tribal people. All right, you should know the word better than them. Unfortunately, because my people, a lot of my people are lazy and they don't want to read it. They don't even know they Israelites. So you should be on the word. You should be on the word more than them. You should be in it. And I'm not saying to do it to be haughty, to be proud, to say that you're better, but this is how you prove yourself worthy. And to be honest, look, and I mean no offense, family, but I understand how tribal we truly are. I understand the connection we have to people that look like us, to our bloodline. So to be honest, if you come up to me, look, I do live by this. I've learned the most I've taught me. All skin folk ain't kinfolk, right? So if you come up to me as a so-called white person, Asian, Hispanic, and you talking about you want to be part of the tribe, I'm not going to say you can't, because once again, I've learned I don't judge by the color. I judge by your actions. But I'd be lying if I wouldn't say that I would be a little distrustful of you, because you are from another nation. And I only say that because I understand at the end of the day, there is truly a connection that we have a lot of times, and most of the time unknowingly, or we don't try to be, we have a connection with our lineage. And the truth is, a lot of people can sit here and say they Israelites, but when the rubber hits the road, and this is another reason why I'm telling you all to watch Dreamkeeper, because that's going to give you an example of how deep you have to go to be accepted into the nation. Because some people, they'll be so attached to their old tribes that, to be honest, if the rubber hit the road, bro, y'all might betray us in the wilderness. You might have lived as an Israelite for 5 years, and then things get hard, and next thing you know, you sell us out to the enemy. You sell us out to those people that look like you. Now, I'm not saying this is all of you, but this is a possibility. So understand, if you want to be grafted in, you have to really truly realize, if this is the life you want, to my Gentile brothers and sisters, you have to really be down. It's like joining a game. And like I told you on my last video, if you join us, you're gonna be just like them people where you see in like the movies of old races, where when you see a white person sleep with a so-called black person, and they be like, you N-word lover, you ain't no better than them, you might as well die with them. That's the life you living. This is what you got to understand. If you want to be grafted into Israel, you got to ride for Israel to the day you die. It's like a game. Ain't no going back. And if you do go back, you can't come back. And it just show. And then if you do go back, it showed that you was never forced in the first place. And you got to understand, it's not going to be easy, because you're going to have people judging you. People like my brothers and sisters that look like me in darker tone. Because remember, we've been hurt. We've been put down for so long, had our identities taken. We getting it back. And here you come talking about, once again, want to be like us. But look, it's no hate, because I put the word in the Most High first. And I respect the word in my King. And you are welcome if you truly want to live as a Israelite. If you truly about this life and you want to be grafted in, I respect that. And I'll accept you as long as you toe the line. As long as you do what's required of you. As long as you are humble. As long as you understand. And it's like I said, it's not that you become slaves. You become my brother and sister. But at the same time, you have to realize, especially if you're not the third generation, if you're the first generation coming in, as a first generation, you will not be on the same level as someone who's born in it blood-wise. And that's not mean that that don't mean they had a right to hit you or treat you like a slave. But understand, there's gonna be hurt people. And understand that we are chosen by the Most High to be a representative. So even though you're not allowed to be a priest, your descendants might be a priest. Someone in your third generation or fourth generation might marry someone from the tribe of Levi or from Judah. And the Most High might choose them to then go out and minister the gospel, the good news. But that's not for you. You have to understand that you're not doing this for you. You're doing this for the next generation. So you have to accept that and be willing to walk this line, that you're not doing it for you. You're doing it for your later generations. And if some of y'all still with me watching this video, I hope you still follow me. Because I'm trying to explain to you once again. I want to show you that movie again. Hold on. because this video I know is about to run out of time, so I want to make sure I get everything in here. Dreamcatcher. I'm gonna put it in the comment section. It's free. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, if you want to, because this movie is about a lot of different stuff. Oh, once again, family, look, and this is for my so-called black people, my Israelite people. Remember, family, they've stolen our history. The people in this movie, this is especially if you're an avid reader of the Bible and Book of Mormon, when you watch the stories in this movie, you'll see the similarities between these stories and biblical stories. Because remember, family, this all comes from Adam and Eve in the beginning. There's really only one story. It's just you got people who like to add their 2 cents and change different tribes, change it up. But nonetheless, this is our history, family. And remember, remember Egypt, remember Kemet, remember even when you look on the Egyptian walls, there was dark-skinned melanated people and light-skinned people like me. Even when you read I forget the book, but Josephus said that David was a light-skinned man. So you had dark-skinned melanated people, dark chocolate, light-skinned like me. But there was no so-called white people in Egypt, not till later till they invaded. Remember, the people in Egypt today are not the original people that lived there before. A lot of stuff has been, excuse this terminology, but whitewashed, family. So a lot of these people, like even when you look at the Ten Commandments movies, a lot of stuff been whitewashed. So don't let these people that you see in the movie throw you off. Remember, some of these people, look, no offense, because look, even the Gentiles I'm talking to, so-called native, I'm Indian, not Native American. So to my so-called Native American, y'all are able to be brought into the tribe of Israel as well, grafted, if you do the work. Okay, but to my Indian people, like I said, this is why I say read the Book of Mormon. It even says in the Book of Mormon, it says black. As much as they told us growing up that don't read it because Mormons are racist. Look, them people stole our history, just like they stole the Bible and took it as theirs. It said it's a Christian book when it's not a Christian book. You got to take the time and study. This is to my Israelite people. This is our history. Read it. Read it and read. America's Turtle Island is our people's home.